All right, welcome back to yet another What's the Pick? This pack, as you may notice, the layout is a bit different. That's because it's from Draft Lock on Draftmancer, but it doesn't really matter too much for the purpose of this video, so let's get into it. Worth mentioning here is this is a pack from Billy the Kitty, a player who plays a lot on the draft server, and we already have picked a time walk, but the picture doesn't show that. So we already have a time walk. So what do we do with that info? We have a time walk. We look at this pack. All right. So first of all, we see a fetch land. Fetch lands are extremely powerful because they inevitably let you play with more good cards, right? So the logic here is, let's say we pick Arid Mesa, we end up in, what do I know, blue-red. All of a sudden, we have a great avenue to splash, first of all, white, because Arid Mesa can go get basic planes, but maybe you can go get some Triomes, and then enable cards from other colors, like, let's say, Oko out of green, or Minsk and Boo out of green. Can be something like Fourth Yalingas out of white, Switch to Plowshares out of white, whatever. You get the point. The point is, having good mana lets us play with more great cards. So that's definitely a consideration. The next consideration is going for a Premier Mana Dork. Noble Hierarch is very, very strong, especially in blue-green. In blue-green, it's like one of the best color combinations for Time Walk, because we get stuff like Regrowth, like Tameo, like Eternal Witness, and in general, hitting with big green creatures just, makes Time Walk even better. So definitely a consideration. Definitely a consideration. So let's get into the third possibility here. That's Jace Rince Prodigy. So Jace Rince Prodigy is, in my opinion, a blue card that makes my blue deck 99 times out of 100, maybe 95. The card is especially strong when you have cheap instants or sorceries to, play from the yard, to do the Snapcaster Mage. And we, as it turns out, we have the absolute best one here in Time Walk. So Jace Rince Prodigy is a card that, in a vacuum, is not a better pick than Noble and Fetchland, but in this context is right up there because of Time Walk. So maximizing the effect of Time Walk is something that is a fine line to walk. No pun intended. So with a card like Time Walk, I like to do it, but with other cards, let's say Soul Ring, let's just imagine we have a Soul Ring, and we then look at this pack and we're like, whoa, Soul Ring is really good with Morlock, or the Soul Ring is really good with the Gidra Ravenous Ride, but we also have a cheaper card. Then I don't like it as a tiebreaker, because Soul Ring is going to be good regardless. So is Time Walk. But some games, when we're behind, the burst of 2 extra turns is going to put us over the hump. So very close. But my verdict is we take Jace Rince Prodigy here. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say there is a Regrowth, which is also a way to rebuy Time Walk. Then I'm going to pick something else. So it's because of the quality of Jace. Snapcaster Mage would be right around the same power level as Jace, so I would also take Snapcaster. But the more, Regrowth, Tameo, Eternal Witness, I would look elsewhere. So, yeah, very, very cool pack, and thank you for that, Billy. So let's move on to the next tier. This has a lot of action in it, as you can see. This is a pack that I got permission to use from Jake Brown, I believe. And yeah, let's get into it. So we have Archon of Cruelty and Atraxa in the same pack. In general, I don't like, picking either, because it's relatively certain that pack 2 is going to be bad for me if those two, great cards go in the same pack. We had a pack on an earlier video where we had like Palace Jailer and Parallax Wave in the same pack. That was kind of the same thing. I didn't feel good about that. And here, Archon will go in any reanimation deck. It will go in any sneak deck. And I think that's about it. I guess sometimes you can play it in your Dream Halls deck, but let's just mention those for the sake of argument. Atraxa goes in more decks. We talked about it before. Good with Flash, good with Natural Order, better with Dream Halls. Atraxa is the better one of those two. So let's keep that in mind as we move on here. We have a Fetch Land. Fetch Land is a very solid opening to a draft, but I think we have, good enough cards to look past the Fetch Land for this one. Then we have Gut True Soul Stellat. So I've talked a lot about this card. I think most people have caught up to how good that card is, because for a lot of people playing Vintage Cube, you're just going to be like, oh yeah, that's just some kind of aggressive creature that's slightly better than a Goblin Rabble Master, something along those lines, right? That's like the general sentiment. I play Vintage Cube because I want to sneak attack Emrakul and I want to reanimate a Gristlebrand and I want to storm off or whatever, right? Gut is a premier aggro card. I can't stress it enough. It's really, really, really strong, especially in this format with so much, random extra permanents lying around, clues, treasures, all of that. We talked about that before. Then the last mention here, Swords to Plowshares. Swords to Plowshares is actually kind of amazing. It's a spell that has 30 years, plus 30 years on the tank, and it's still going strong. It's still just no questions asked, get rid of whatever. That card is so strong. Whether you're clearing the way in your aggro deck, whether you're destroying or exiling, rather, the opponent's best creatures in your control deck, that card is just going to be so strong in any deck that can cast it. So I think we can narrow this down to Atraxa versus Gut versus Swords to Plowshares. At the end of the day, I'm not going to blame you for taking either of those. For me, I'm also going to take Atraxa out of the picture here. I feel like the tiebreaker is if we remove Archon from the pack and we insert a bad card, then I wouldn't know what to tell you. I could see taking Atraxa then. But the fact that Archon's in here, that will affect the quality of our deck, our final product, enough that I want to look to the other cards. I'm going to take Swords to Plowshares in this pack simply because it makes the cut in all of my decks that can cast it, where Gut does not. There is a chance our seat is like some kind of controlling shell, and we can't play Gut. It is unlikely. Gut is highly likely to make my deck, but I think it's slightly more replaceable, or maybe I should say Plow is less replaceable. I'm not saying Gut is replaceable, but it's easier to find something on the curve that is similar to Gut than finding 1 mana, kill creatures, no questions asked, right? So that effect is more unique. Final verdict, we take the Swords to Plowshares and we hope people fight over some broken stuff. We can hope the fatties go, the twisters gone, LEDs gone, fetch land gone, and in a perfect world, we can wield the Council's Judgment and look like geniuses. I guess even the Sacred Founder would be a good wheel. All right, last pack, and this is a spicy one. I believe it's sent to me by Janara. Thank you so much. You should definitely go and check out his channel as well. I believe it's Janara19 on YouTube. He does similar formats to me, but he also plays Arena. And if that's your jam, definitely go check him out. What about this pack? So this pack is actually more, let's say, fundamental. Let's build like a power ranking of how good the cards actually are in Cube. Because here we have 3 possibly top 5 cards, I would say. Yeah, 3 top 5 cards here, maybe even 3 top 4 cards. I think along with Time Walk, these are the 4 you would be talking about as the absolute best way to start a draft. So yeah, let's just go into it. Mana Crypt. Let's start from the top. Mana Crypt is a card that excels in proactive decks. That means if I play blue-white control and I have a Mana Crypt, it's going to be way worse compared to if I play red-green Hasty Boys, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Mana Crypt is better in an aggressive deck. It's better than Sol Ring in an aggressive deck. We can just compare those two. Sol Ring is going to be better in your deck that kind of goes longer, drains the opponent of resources, wins with, random pieces of cardboard. And between those two, I actually prefer Mana Crypt because I think it's so likely that I'm going to be a deck that is trying to win proactively at some point, and the turn 1 play a 3-drop I just think is more impactful than turn 2 play a 4-drop. Mainly because don't want to have too many 4-drops in my deck to begin with. So that's like my tiebreaker for those two cards. So I guess we are at this point comparing Mana Crypt to Black Lotus. Black Lotus lets you play a 4-drop on turn 1, or like lets you, double spell a couple of 2-drops, which is something that is a bit underrated, I would say. Like turn 1 double 2-drop, turn 2 2-drop plus 3-drop. That's similar to how Orcus Lumberjack works in like Red Green Monsters. I had a deck yesterday where I went turn 1 Lumberjack, then turn 2 Rabble Master and Robble of the Rich, for instance. So it's like a way to go from 2 to 5. And when I played the Mox, Black Lotus on my opponent's side of the table was a way to go from 3 to 6 and play turn 3 Grave Titan. My deck just couldn't handle that at all, and I easily lost. So Black Lotus is very, very flexible when it comes to that, and it opens up shenanigans like, Breach, Yawgmoth's Will, stuff that can recur it, like Samwise, like I don't know, like Regrowth, like some more like broken stuff, I would say. So, or spell-based broken stuff. Maybe that's the better one. Also, it can play out, colored cards more easily, like let's say some 5-mana Nissas or something along those lines. Hardcast, Ashen Rider. It can do some stuff that the Mana Crypt can't. So at the end of the day, what's it going to be here? Yeah. So Mana Crypt versus Black Lotus is extremely close. I think I'm slightly giving the edge to Black Lotus, but I can't stress enough how good Mana Crypt is. The damage really shouldn't convince you to look at this card in a negative light. I think that card is insane. And I only take Black Lotus slightly ahead of it, so I guess that does tell some kind of story. I don't think the rest of the pack here is really worth talking about. I mean, we're never going to see that Swords to Plowshares again, and all the other cards are very replaceable. So it's definitely between the big three here. And yeah, Black Lotus came out slightly ahead. All right, that's going to do it for today's What's the Pick video. I might have gas in the tank for one more. It's mainly like how many interesting screenshots can I gather. So if you have one, please send it over, and I will do 1 or 2 more videos. All right, guys, thanks so much for the continued support, and I'll see you next time.